Yeah, man. So tell kind of, how you came about to find us. Now we're woobie, kind of rebranded as opposed to M2M. Still the
Okay.
same group of people, organic, group of folks, and, always, looking to improve what we do. So how did you come across us?
Honestly, it was 100% social media. I kept seeing you guys on Instagram over and over. Um, Actually, there was probably two or three companies I was looking at, and I reached out to a couple. One was super slow, never got back with me after it took like 2 months. You guys, I scheduled a call with CJ immediately, and the, but yeah, it was all social media, Instagram, and
Cool.
I just finally went for it one day.
Well, that's two of the things you're mentioning, two of the things that I think are some of our best assets as far as what we do. Obviously, I think our social media platform is very good. It's
Right,
real. I mean, it looks good, but it's got a lot of good information. There's no real strings attached. And then our sales, right? I mean, talking to
right,
CJ, he's one of our leaders on the sales team, but everybody that works with us has the same ethos, really. So we are very selective about who joins us because no offense to the veteran community, but not all veterans are created equal.
right, right,
We all worked and deployed with folks who maybe weren't the strongest, but we're
right.
pretty selective. So that's awesome that you came across us that way. Sounds like CJ really jumped on it. So
You
then
did.
you talked to CJ. What was the next step? What happened after that?
I talked to CJ, and it was the first day I talked to him. It was like 10 a.m. We scheduled a phone call, and obviously, I see you guys on social media. I'm like, are they legit? Are they not? And a huge, I guess you could call it a red flag, is people are scared to pay up front. Like that pay up front fee. And so, but that he must have got me in a good mood, and he was good, and he knew what he was talking about. And I just said, you know what, let's go for it. I paid right there. He set me up with some sent me some emails, hooked me up. I mean, right away the ball started rolling immediately. And I thought this is awesome.
Yeah, man.
Um,
The way we battled back and forth early days on that because obviously we don't want to break the bank for people. A lot of the competitors and other folks will do more of an a la carte style pricing where,
right,
oh, if you want letter B, it costs $800 or something like that.
right, right,
I think that just incentivizes doing things for the sake of doing them, as opposed to refocusing. What's the mission, right? The mission is to get you to 100%. So
right,
making it more of a membership based. Hey, we will work with you till the end.
right,
That's just
right.
a cheesy slogan. It actually makes a ton of sense, right?
Yeah,
And then from our side as well, we also want good clients, right? I mean, there's no doubt about it. We want people who are serious, who
right,
communicate well with us for them, right? And I
right,
run into that sometimes where people are very used to the easy button phenomenon where it's like, oh well, I paid this money and like now just do it. Well, nothing good in life worth having comes easy, and
right,
it's a partnership. And
right.
so let's talk about kind of once we kind of built out your plan, or even before that, like how did the partnership look to you with us?
I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was. And then now that I've done the process, I agree with the paying up front because I've personally invested money into it, and now it's like the ball's in my court. Like I'm not going to waste your time because I put money into it, and you're not going to waste my time. It's because a lot of the responsibilities on the individual to file. It's in most other companies, they do everything, but you don't know what they're doing at all. And if they don't get you to 100% or the results you're looking for, it's like that was the last company I used. They were good, but they brought me to a certain point and they say, hey, you're maxed out. I say, hey, I'd like to pursue this. I have a service connected, but 0% on this. And they say, no, we don't think that'd be wise to do. So I'm like, you know, I, I think it would be, but so that's why I went with you guys, and you guys
It's
definitely
funny
went for it.
because it's and one thing I like about our company too is that the medical side of the house is in the middle of the house, right?
Yeah.
And I had spoken to some other companies, not to work with them, but really just to get information when I was independent and just figuring out, well, what do things cost? Because I was
Right.
just working for friends of friends, and I was going to charge them something, but I didn't want to overcharge, and this is bad karma, bad juju, and
Right.
you know, it's most of the competitors will outsource their medical operations to random PAs, nurse
Right.
practitioners, and folks who just kind of template send out documents, right? They'll talk to you
Right.
real quick and that's it. But, you know, having done so many med boards and what I did back in the day, I knew that this stuff doesn't work, right? I mean, the VA plays dumb, but they're actually very smart. They'll look into, what the documents actually say. Are they supported by evidence? Is this coherent? Is it full? And I looked at many DB nexus letters and all the different sorts of supportive documents. And it's, maybe I'm just reading it critically, but it's kind of like going through the motions. And I don't hear the passion. I don't hear the, very clear statements. So you mentioned the 0% rating. You're talking about your headaches, I presume, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Once we talked, so you and I had a meeting one-on-one once we got onboarded, and the onboarding form that we made you fill out was really by design from me, right? I wanted to extract everything. And, contrary to what you experienced with those other folks, I'm I'm a grind kind of guy. It's like, we're going to figure it out. No guarantees, this kind of stuff. But, it's not like we create things out of thin air. It's just, we know how to extract the water from the rag, so to speak. Right. And not giving up, again, it is cliche to say, like, we'll never get up for you. We won't. And because in the end, there's always a path to get more. It's just, you have to maybe build evidence, maybe you have to restructure things, think outside the box. And I think that's what we do. We do well, right? And we're a smaller company, and I like that because we're kind of lean and mean. We get things done quickly, and it's very communicative and integrative. So let's talk about once we talked, what was that like for you, and then what did we actually do together?
You and I was actually excited after we talked because you let me know I had very, I guess you could say, crucial questions on whether to file everything, how to file everything I had. Like, do I need to file the secondary? Do I need to file primary? Do I need to, what do I do? And I mean, you let me know black and white what I should be going for, what I should file, what should, what has the highest, what gets the highest ratings, things like that. And I felt, honestly, after talking to you and getting my case ready, I thought there's no way I'm not getting 100%. There's just, I was pretty confident. I just felt like I had a solid case, a solid understanding of what I was getting ready to submit and file, which helped a ton. It did help a ton. And you guys you were quick on it. You were on it. I sent you stuff. You sent me back letters within like 48 hours. It was done. It was very fast.
Yes, sir. And the part of it is, I think the benefit, there's a lot of benefits from it, but having a strategy conversation, right? Not just we're going to produce this document today, but like you understanding the process to that next level and understanding the whys behind what I'm asking you to do and what I'm planning to do for you, and what kind of then projecting what the third party VA is going to do, right? And having that conversation in depth and really thinking in strategy, there's no other word for it. Like, you have to plan out what your moves are, and then have counter moves if things don't go the way that we want. Because the VA, I don't care what company it is, what doctor's name, what evidence you have, the VA is very scattered and all over the place with their ratings, and they don't always follow their CFR formula. And you have to be realistic. And that's what I try to do with everybody, optimistic and like very fierce with how we do it, but you have to be realistic too. And, your case was, I think you were, rated at 0% for tension headaches, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
so
sir.
I saw that. And then I saw your medical record and I said, well, this is not even right. And this is something I ran into and really got me into the industry with my own claim a couple of years ago, is they didn't get the diagnosis names right. And same thing, like rated me at very low for something that should have been higher, and like didn't get the name of it right. It just looked like a, third grader, Googled something with their mom's phone. And like, you can, when you're a physician, especially, and I'm an ortho guy and that kind of stuff, like the details matter. And I'm not saying everybody has to flaunt their, surgical knowledge and that, but you can tell when somebody doesn't know what they're talking about by how they think about it or by how they write about it. And when I see the VA, and this is not just a VA slam fest, but the truth is that I can tell that they kind of go through the motions with stuff like that. And that bothers me. So immediately I saw an opportunity. Being service connected is huge, right? So you were already service connected, which is big. And that's the first thing I do with most people is say, get me your ratings decision letter, or letters plural, right? Because the devil's in the details, right? If I just said, like, took your word for it, said, oh yeah, headaches, but I didn't get that detail of, hey, this is already service connected, but it's rated wrong and it's not even under the right diagnosis. Like, we got moves to make, right? That detail is important. So I saw that, and with you, I know I had senior evidence. Did you get more evidence after we spoke, or was it like, oh, we already had everything teed up already?
Just from you. But as far as medical evidence, it was the diagnosis and treatment from a headache doctor that had seen. I sent you that, and then you sent me the DBQ, all that fun stuff. So no more medical evidence after that. That was all I needed, really.
And sometimes I run into people who maybe don't have the clearest evidence, right? Like they'll have like maybe treated for headaches that's not clearly diagnosed, not put on the right meds. And like, that's where I know what the DBQ forms look like, right? I know what they're going to ask me ahead of time. And if that's not in record, not just subjectively from someone, it's not as strong. You made it very easy because you already had very good medical evidence. So sometimes in those meetings, I'll say, hey, like real talk, we got to build evidence. And there's multiple ways to do that, whether it's your own primary care doctor, whether it's one of our partner groups, the VA, it doesn't really matter as long as it gets done, because really my role with clients and with you was to be the independent reviewer of everything at a 30,000 foot view.
Right.
Give my opinion, use the medical literature, try to make the angle, knowing how to speak with it. And, we got you from 0% tension headaches with a little bit of evidence gathering, organization. I looked at the record this morning again and prep for this. Very organized record, cleaned, titled correctly, so the VA actually reads it, right? If you dump 500 pages of your whole record, they're not going to go through it.
Right. No way. Yeah.
We'll talk. And then a proper DBQ with nexus statements in it from me.
Right.
So you submitted that with our help and our guidance, right? And that's another part of it is I want people to file it with us and yourself, because then there's a quality check. There's an accuracy check. I mean, we'll do the quality, but if you don't claim something the right way, in quotation marks, one click away, it's doomed to fail. And then 6 months of your life's gone and they'll never tell you what you did wrong.
Right.
But by understanding it, and sometimes people have to file multiple claims, by empowering people to actually be there to click the clicks, while to some it might sound inconvenient, that's a good thing. Because now, let's say you got only to 90% now. Well, now you already know what the interface looks like. You know what we're doing. We're going to still help you, but there's education going on, not just for the sake of education, but for performance and outcomes, right?
Right.
So you submitted your package, and then, so what happened? What was the result of your claim?
I submitted the package, and I had some, things I've never had happen before, which is awesome. I texted Dev, but like the VA was scheduling me like the CMP exam. They were scheduling me they wanted me to take another psych eval and I'm on the phone texting like, hey, do I need to attend these? Do I say no, thank you? Do I, and I did exactly what Dev said to do. And
which was what? What did Dev guide you? And for everybody to know out there that Dev is our CSR, so our client success rep. But really, she's an extension of me and Devin as well. Like they're kind of like my PAs, but they're brilliant people, right? It's not just like, under the employees, like they're 100% service connected. We're all in sync. So the advice she gives is really it's really not just a random thought. It's all of a collective plan. So what did she tell you to do?
So there was two parts. The psych eval that I had just previously taken, who you guys had put me in contact with. I had that on a PDF, a file. The VA wanted me to take another one. I just reached out to the VA. I called them. I said, hey, I had just taken this test. Instead of taking another one with the VA, I would like to use the evidence that I submitted in the claim and use that for the psych eval. They said, no problem, we'll do that. So that was number one. Number two was the CMP exam. I did it with the third party. The VA uses third party PAs, I believe. I attended that, but I walked in with your DBQ in hand and my medical evidence, and I gave it to the PA. I said, hey, all this information you need is right here in the packet. They didn't ask me a single question. They went straight off your DBQ and off my medical evidence. And she said, it was organized, and she said, this is fantastic. She just copied and pasted the whole thing by hand. I gave her a copy. She kept it. And that was it. I didn't have to answer any more questions, any new questions, the whole thing was right off of your DBQ and like I said, the medical evidence that was already submitted with my claim. So nothing new. And that was fantastic.
Yeah, I appreciate the ego boost for sure. It's nice when people, you kind of get that feedback, and some of that's for me too. But we do run into, like I talked about that variation earlier with how the VA does things. Sometimes you can deny CMP exams, sometimes you can. It's real nebulous, right? will they look at these right documents? Do they make you go? And I'm kind of a believer in, case by case situation, right? I always like to prepare and do the C&P examiner's job for them. Most of the time, and they should, to be clear, the VA should take that without having to go to another third party schmuck, so to speak, right?
Right.
Because sometimes you run into people who aren't good and who are offended by, you bringing in a document, you like steering the process, which you didn't. You're just presenting the facts to them.
Right.
And sometimes they're just crooked and they got a bone to pick, right? Or maybe they get paid extra to cheat people. I don't really know.
Right.
It seems that way. But the truth is that it worked out really well for you. So you went through the process. I think, I'm looking at my records here, and it's, I think you signed on in like November timeframe.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Middle November, and now it's, late April.
Right.
So overall, it didn't take very long. But once you submitted and went to the C&P exam, how long did it take to get your results back?
It flew to step 5, and within under 2 weeks, maybe 10 days, I'm already at step 5. And I thought I don't know if this is good or not, but it flew through. I was at step 5 for just over 3 months, to the point where I was barely checking at this point. And I had randomly got on the VA app and opened it up. It said service connected 100%. I jumped up as I started looking into it, got on va.gov, and all of a sudden from step 5 to step 8, they were done, 100%, and looked up my results online. You can see the claim decision letter now online, and saw that the headaches straight from 0 to 50%. And the psyche valve that I wasn't as aggressive with that claim.
Yeah.
And I honestly thought I would maybe get 30% on that, and I had 70% for the psyche valve, which I thought was phenomenal. And that was it. That's all it took.
Yeah, man. And it goes to kind of how we strategize. Again, I don't try to make everything fit into one box, hammer nail phenomenon, putting a round peg in a square hole kind of situation, because that's not a good way to be. But the fact is that these high value areas, with the right evidence, with the VA, and just, again, reality is, with those two things, we see that a lot, right? Because that's the case in our community. That's how it is, right? With a 70 and a 50% rating, which I 100% believe that's accurate, right? That's a fair rating based on how the VA rates it in evidence.
Right.
That alone is 85% raw, which is 90%. Just two things, right?
2 things. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Men with 90%, correct?
Yes, I did.
Add that, and that's why I tell people, like, it's really building a base. However you get to 100% means nothing to me, or it shouldn't matter to you either, right? You came in with a very strong base, and then we hammered it home with that last little bit, which is the big bit. But sometimes it's the opposite. People have nothing, and I try to tell them, like, what we have to do is we have to build your base of your claim. It's not that we're happy with 80 or 90%, because, like I said, I'm not the guy who's just like, oh, that's good, kick a field goal. No, man, like, press the ball down the field and drive the end zone. You know what I mean? Pound the football. Right. I approach this stuff, and but with intention. You got to be strategic. You can't always throw deep posts down the field. It's not a reference, but you got to know what you're doing. And in the end, it's a huge win. And I love this stuff. I'm telling you, man. Like, I swear to you, I look forward to hearing people get 100% and talking to y'all, because it's a lot of grinding on my end. Like I said, with work, putting people's fears at ease. And I don't blame anyone for being a little skittish to click an ad or to word of mouth and trust somebody with thousands of dollars and your VA claim and your medical records and all these things. So, like, I get it. So, like, I spend a lot of time making sure that people understand that we are real people, and we do real things with a lot of experience, and, like, not only just leaning on what we've done, but what we're actively doing and going to do, growing the company. And I'm super happy about what we do and where we're at with it. So I don't want to eat up too much more of your time, but what kind of give me a second on what would you tell somebody that ran across an ad, or what would you tell somebody that heard word of mouth, Mill to Millions or Woobie, Dr. Alliance, and what would you tell them, like, in general, about what we do and whether it's worth it or not, and the results?
I'm glad you asked this. I've already spoken to a couple buddies of mine that are battling their VA claims process as well. I said, hey, I've used M2M. I said they're aggressive. They make me happy. They're aggressive. They go at it. I said they're different than any other company. It's not a. I said you are filing your claim yourself. This is not a lawyer or an attorney you're hiring. Like, but they are basically right next to you, telling you, explaining to you how it works. They're giving you the documents you need. They're getting your claim ready. But you are all in all, you click submit at your home at the end of the day. No one's doing it for you. But they've got your back the whole way. Any question you have, any time of the day, you can shoot a text, a call, like the live interviews you do, or the groups, or you got the school app. The resources are, they're all over the place with you guys. You can find out anything you want to find out. But I'd highly recommend you guys. I wish I would have used you guys sooner, but it all worked out in the long run. So
better late than never.
Better late than never. Yes.
That's again kind of how I feel about what we do. And you talked about the resources. So the school platform is kind of like a Facebook page, more or less, that is strictly ours. That's free to people just to go browse around, look at what's going on, resources. That's how you can really get the information you need, other than just our website or our social media platform or word of mouth. But that's the ethos at woobie, and what we're trying to do now is do right by every single person, and we've always done that. And in the end, it pays off, because being a guy who's been in the community and done this stuff and been through the process personally, and know thousands of people even before the VA world that have gone through it, and what that means, and the stress and what they put you through, not only physically in your job and deployments and hard shit, but also what they put you through on the back end of trying to then argue the truth, like kind of a gaslighting phenomenon from the VA. That is not only just insulting, but inappropriate. And, I get a fire lit under me, because I know the impact that it has, that people don't talk about and don't see, of giving up not only on their VA process, but on doing the right thing, building, right? It's like an internal collapse and a hopelessness. And that's what in reality I do feel like we're trying to combat as a great secondary benefit to doing what we're doing here. Because if you're struggling out there and you're stuck at 10%, or the VA screwed you over, I just tell everybody, nothing against buying bracelets of suicide awareness and t-shirts and slogans and stuff, but the reality is how do you prevent the worst of things from happening? And it's getting people the benefits that they actually earned, from that safety net, financially and benefit package wise, healthcare, tax breaks, and that's how we make a difference. And it's not to always talk. We don't really talk about that a lot, but I think that's actually really important, because if you're walking the walk, and our community is word of mouth, we all know how it goes. We got a buddy who did this, we needs help. I think it's our job, and everybody in the community's job, is to spread the word. It's not so much just, pay us money and let us help you with your claims so you get paid more. It's to instill some hope of, don't give up on your medical needs. Don't give up on your disability claims. Don't give up on education. Don't give up on everybody and yourself. Right.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So I guess with my last thing, just charge to you and everyone, and what you do in your life, whether it's family or veterans or friends, colleagues, just keep doing the right thing and keep, making the world a better place, to sound like Mother Teresa. But just take this opportunity with this safety net you have now, and this opportunity of benefits, and just run with it. Dominoes, butterfly, just go do the most wildly awesome things and build people up. That's what I'll charge you to do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I will.
Very good, man. And thank you again for your time today. And I hope to catch up with you sometime. Keep me posted, and maybe we'll cross paths on some stuff in the future.
Yes, sir. No, thank you guys for everything. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. Have a good one, man.
You too. Bye.